Good morning, guys. Thank you for joining us this morning. This is session 5 of the Mayflex Spring Technical Training event. This one's Tether. Very pleased to welcome along Roman Goffman from Tether CEO, to join us today and help with the training. Hi, Roman.
Thank you, James.
So all the usual things today, please. If you could just, this is a couple of hour session, so if you could just pop your phone on silent, turn off your email, just for a little while whilst we do this. Plenty of opportunities to ask questions throughout the session, but don't wait till a Q&A session. There's a Q&A question and answer box on the drop-down menu in front of you, and also the chat box as well. So if you want to pop it in there, do that as we go along, and we'll try and cover them as we go. We'll take a short break during the session if required. We'll take a vote on that as we get into it. So yeah, I think you find it quite a nice little session. We're going to make it available afterwards as well. So if you've got colleagues that wanted to make it today that haven't managed to yet because of the school run or something, then they can still watch it afterwards. Okay, so welcome to the Tether training program. My name's James Zoom. I'm technical training manager at Mayflex. So it's my job to look after vendor training and deliver a load of it as well. So it's really nice today to have Roman with us, you know, to hear from the horse's mouth, if you like. So what we'd like to achieve together today, this is the approved Tether installation partner, the approved Tether accredited technician. Plus, of course, we'll talk about the benefits of the Tether platform for installers and of course, customers as well. Okay, so 4 short slots today, 4 little modules. Obviously, the job role that you do determines which ones are most applicable, but we're going to cover all 4 of these today. So it's not really about selling it, but everybody's job is about selling. So it's really an engineering course, but you need to understand what you've got to be able to understand it, you know, and portray that across to the customers. So there is a reference to selling in there, so apologies if you think that it's just an engineering only course. It is. Okay, so as an introduction, always good to hear about you know, the heart of the beast, if you like. So at Tether, the 2 most important things was at Tether are video and user experience. We've invested a lot of time and experience into creating this platform to meet the needs of users. That's both integrators and end users. We always believed that CCTV was a necessity, excuse me, but we were very frustrated to be able to, oh crikey, it's going to be one of those days today. Apologies. We always believed that CCTV was a necessity, but we were frustrated to be unable to find a solution that met the needs of both the installer, provided a robust and easy to use experience. So we wrote our own about 12 years ago, and we've been developing it ever since. We started out called Zamview, literal translation being to see the light, rebranding last year to Tether, as this better reflects both our connected technology and how attached we are to what we do. So at 12 years old, we're a mature platform trusted by over 1,000 sites and growing fast, but we're leading the way in both UI and UX. We think that you should be able to have an easy to use yet powerful solution, and that's where we are today, solving your CCTV needs and adding a bit of cloud too. We believe that the equipment should be efficient to install yet powerful enough to do what you want in an intuitive and easy way. In and retire to a comfy seat to complete the programming. Bosses and managers out there, yes, that does mean the engineers can go to McDonald's and complete the programming, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it. We do believe that in the event that if something happens to your tether box on site, you should have an automatic backup in the cloud, and this should also include the video data too. At the heart of it is the interface, and it's completely platform agnostic. So whether you choose Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS or Android, and whatever your favorite browser happens to be, whether it happens to be Firefox, Chrome, Safari or even Edge, it's compatible with them all. And that's kind of the important thing that we're getting at here. At this point, I'd like to hand over to Roman, who's going to give us a quick demo via the app and the web browser. If you want to share your screen, Roman.
1 second, just sharing the screen now. Open one more tab, 1 second. Here we go. Can everybody see? Can people see my screen?
Yes, we
James,
can.
can you see my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, brilliant. Um, all right, so I guess one of the main interfaces that we have is the map view. So whatever it is you have out there, you can see it all on a color-coded map, and the map can be color-coded either by the health stats of that site or by the severity of whatever alarm those sites might have. So this is useful both for yourselves as engineers or for a control room, for instance, that is trying to locate a problem site. So it's quite straightforward. As you zoom in, these bubbles expand, and then you can actually press on the bubbles to go straight into that site. Once you went into a site, you can see something like this. So this is a visual event summary of everything that's going on that site, and then you can start filter this down by time ranges, by analytics, by locations. So the powerful thing about this summary is we show a best image from for every event, and the image should be representative of what's inside of that event. So if there was a person sprinting past the camera, we'd pick that person front and center when they're in the middle of the frame, draw a red box around them, and add them to this interface. So you can see here, for instance, a person walking around, and that can be very, very powerful. So beyond that, you can specify, you can swap to a table view. This is more suitable for responding to incoming alarms, and all of this is real time. So as new events come in, they will be populated into this table, pop to the top of the list, and once again, you can filter them by analytics, by severity, by location, etc. So if you are sitting in a control room, or if you are a large business and you have 200 sites that you need to manage, you can specify, I want to be notified every time anybody goes into a stock room or anytime somebody opens a till. You can do really powerful things. So another example is, I have a tab open here. So here we have deep alert enabled on the cameras. And what deep alert does is every time we pick up motion or the camera picks up motion, deep alert will run machine learning and artificial intelligence to actually detect, was there a person or was there a vehicle in the scene? So unlike even the best analytics out there, so even an H5, a visual on camera, which is a very expensive camera, is going to have significantly more false events than running a very powerful, very complex algorithm in the cloud like Deep Alert. And the idea of Tether is to take as much metadata as much, or to give you as many services as possible by tethering up all of your equipment and bringing it to a single visual dashboard. So that's a very basic overview of what the interface does. And from this interface, you can also say, if you wanted to share this event, you press on that event, press share, and then you can type, "Dear Mr. Policeman," or whoever you need to share this event with. So the entire interface, everything you do at Tether is designed to be very straightforward, very easy to use. And we use these three words, solid, secure, straightforward, to describe our product. And if whatever we do isn't straightforward or isn't solid or isn't secure, then we just don't do it. So just to show you what else you can do. So once you found that event, you can, of course, play that back in full 4K quality or whatever the camera can record. So let's see where that vehicle was driving past. There we go. And you can also peek into that event. So without needing to play it back, you can see exactly what happened throughout the video. And it's a best snapshot, so it will draw a red box around the moving object once again. So it's not a typical time lapse, it's a smart time lapse. So that's what the base interface looks like. And we have many different dashboards, many different screens. Here's another example of a dashboard where we're showing a breakdown of which units are being installed, how they're being used, how customers are accessing this. So this can be used both as almost like a CRM for the security industry. In fact, we get often compared to a CRM, or it can be used to manage your business, to see what your engineers are up to, who's installing what. For security companies, there's even a breakdown of which engineers are installing what. Um, Another thing to mention, all of this information is available in app form as well. So we have native apps for iPhone, iOS, and Android. So you can see here, as I change to different devices, you can see the interface changes slightly. So depending on the screen size, it knows what to show by default, what not to show. So here we can bring up, so the same menu that we had before to filter. On a mobile device, it shows up, press print back, sorry. On a mobile device, it shows up as a burger menu. but everything that I've demonstrated is available exactly the same on the mobile app. So if I go into map view, for instance, I have the exact same options. I can filter by, I just want to see the devices that I've switched on right now. I can start zooming in, and I can just as well go into the device from the map. Let me pick a device that I know we have access to. So if I press on that device, oh, lost it. Yeah, live demos. Pick a slightly larger screen so you can see it better. So you can see here that this camera here was unplugged 3 months ago. You can see all the health information as a snapshot right here from the map, and you can even preview cameras. So the app is very powerful. You can find the app by just going to our knowledge base. Knowledge base is also always available from the platform. If you press the little help button on the bottom right, you can search for iOS, for instance, and it's going to show you the results, including the links where to download. So that's a brief overview of the app and the platform. And now I'll hand it back to James. James, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. So you should be able to see the screen again now.
No worries. Yep, I can see your screen.
Fab. We seem to have a little bit of latency this morning. It's just catching us out. Okay, thanks for the demo. We're going to talk about cloud storage next. You can view the nice thing about cloud storage. You can view anywhere where you've got an internet connection. It's generally faster access than trying to connect to your NVR directly via the internet. The Tether box does connect locally if you're on the same network for speed and to save bandwidth, especially if you're on a restricted bandwidth connection with your broadband, or you've got lots and lots of cameras, for example. What happens to your images when an intruder steals your recorder? In a normal CCTV system, everything's lost. With Tether, your images can be stored in the cloud, so you always have them, even if the Tether box has been stolen or damaged beyond repair, for example, a fire or flood. Your config is stored securely in the cloud, so it's just a case of connecting a replacement Tether box, restore it, and away you go. So, thinking about this, if a burglar was to steal your NVR, your video recording unit, or there's a fire, that evidence is all gone. What if you don't have any footage to show the police? What if you don't have any evidence to show to the insurance company? One of the recent inquiries that we've had has been for a hazardous chemicals plant. So they need to have all of their capability, all of their footage stored off-site. So in the event of an evacuation, that they can still see what's going on, and they've got, in the event that something caught fire, for example, or there was an explosion, they were still able to access the very last footage that they got. So that's one of the reasons that kind of it really works. Excuse me. CCTV cloud storage makes it possible to have a backup of your videos in case of the unexpected. Like I say, break-ins. What about an inside job where they nick the NVR or turn it off? Fire, flood, etc. It all makes the footage on site vulnerable to being stolen and or destroyed. This can impact both the police investigation and the insurance paperwork, and indeed impacts on future crime prevention. The more we know about what's gone on, the more we can do to prevent it happening again. But what is CCTV cloud storage? CCTV cloud storage refers to the technology of saving data virtually over the internet so that it's easily stored, accessed, and shared at any point in time. More specifically, a cloud is a network of servers connected together so that it allows centralized data storage and access to it remotely. You might already be using services like BBC iPlayer, Google Drive, Dropbox, etc. to upload, store, and retrieve data. Without realizing it, this is basically cloud storage. Now, all this needs to come with a bit of thought of security. All this in the cloud might raise a few questions. Is it secure? Is it robust? Where's my data kept? Well, we give you your choice of data center for compliance. As you would expect, we use industry-leading best practice to guide us. So if you want to know more, scan the QR code on the bottom corner there with your phone. To summarize, really, it's securely deployed in the UK or the EU on industry-leading hardware. Absolutely everything is logged and auditable by you. and by anybody that you give access to. Uses a secure VPN between the Tetherbox and the platform. We've got that security white paper, as I mentioned. We can also, there's also a feature on there to enable and disable support access. So this is great for compliance with Data Protection Act 2018 and GDPR. The end user can actually enable or disable that support access with a toggle. So also, if they've got a problem and need your help, you try to log in and it says that it's disabled, you give them a call and say, can you enable it? You get, once they've enabled it, you get a push notification that'll let you know, and an email, and then you can log in, do what you need to do, and when you've finished and the customer's happy, they can turn off that support access again. So it makes an absolute dream for both compliance and security, privacy, and also for remote maintenance. We also get login alerts. I get them quite a lot because I log in from lots of different machines and lots of different locations. So I get quite a lot of login alerts. It's really nice to know that you know, when somebody else logs into one of your sites, if you want it, that you get an alert from that. So it's good if your password might be compromised, you've got an early warning there. And also the platform informs the installer of any issues. And of course, as I mentioned before, full auditability and accountability from that. Compatibility wise, we work with almost any manufacturer, including those that you see on the screen, picking out a few, you know, Hikvision, Avigilon, Texicom, Mobotics, to name just a few on there, including Axis as well. Excuse me. Yes, I did mention Texicom because it integrates with intruder alarms as well. Okay, I want to talk to you about the installation partner program. Okay, an approved Tether partner program that we've got in place at the moment. It ensures that installers fully understand the product. We're able to offer you guys technical and sales training onto the partners, anybody sign up as a partner. All the partners have access to the cloud backup quote tool and their own dashboard. Both Tether and Mayflex provide a project registration mechanism so we can enable pricing support to approved partners only. Lock in a deal to just you guys as well. So it's good for protecting your own leads. And of course, there's also the project referrals and opportunity leads that come into Tether. They get shared out to partners rather than being sat on or being passed out to anybody random. So they are shared out just to partners. Also, you've got the opportunity to beta test the latest solutions, and you get updated regularly on the latest news and developments. So everybody benefits from this. The partners generally benefit from increased knowledge and experience, which helps push the business forward, helps the best possible customer service and customer retention because of that. The expectations are laid out clearly in a document. This is just a cropped down version of it. There's quite a few more bits and pieces, forming 3 tiers: authorized, silver, and gold. Now, as you move up those tiers, you go from authorized to silver and then on to gold. Depends on A, how much you spend, and B, how many units that you've got installed out there. The number of installers that you've accredited technicians that you've got, and a few other things. But it lays out clearly what the expectations are, both from Tether to the partner and from the partner to Tether. So it's really good, kind of open and transparent. Of course, to maintain that, you do need a minimum number of trained technicians, and there is ongoing technical training available for both technicians and sales as and when you need it, and as part of a planned program like today. Okay, moving on to the next module then, solving problems. I've called this one selling and managing Tether solutions. You kind of need to understand it in order to be able to do both, really. There are hundreds of thousands of existing systems out there that can easily be upgraded with a Tether box. Of course, because it's manufacturer agnostic, any ONVIF compliant recorder or camera, even an analog DVR is compatible, and non-ONVIF ones as well. There's an immediate recurring revenue generation of selling opportunities. There's a huge cost saving for end users who don't need to replace their entire system. A rip and replace mentality is kind of out the window these days. And definitely this is an option to doing that. But of course, upgrading to a tethered solution is very simple, easy, and cost effective. What we need to, when we're designing system, we need to kind of address a few things. We want it to be as intuitive as possible, a better user interface than perhaps other systems on the market, particularly older ones. There needs to be less support required. We've spent far too much time driving to customer sites to do 10 minutes of work and then driving back again. The more we can do remotely, the better. And again, I think this is one of the real key things that stands out for me with Tether. It's openly compatible. It's not single manufacturer locked. You don't have to stick with the same manufacturer's cameras on a site. You could have, a mixture of Axis, Vigilon, Mobotics, Hikvision, whatever you want. It doesn't matter. And it just, you're not setting up the whole system based on one manufacturer. Every single camera can be different, as indeed I'll show you in a little while. There's no complicated per channel licensing. It's very simple and easy to understand. It's flexible cloud storage to meet the end user's needs. Now, what you can do with this, and because people's needs change over the year, if you think about, say, a retailer or somebody that's involved in Christmas, from about September through till just after Christmas, that's when they've got peak stock, when the biggest impact on the business would be if they had a loss. So you can ramp up the amount of cloud storage they've got during that period, and then mid-January, when there's virtually no stock, there's virtually no risk, you can actually wind it back to save money, which I think is a really simple and easy way of doing it. You can change it whenever you want. Just works really, really well, and it's flexible to meet your customers' needs. You can combine it with the existing systems for kind of low cost, high benefit improvements. In fact, one of the most common deployments we see is where you've got maybe a 16 channel NVR on site on an existing system, whether it be IP or up the coax, and then you bolt a tether box on the top of that to give you access to the cameras that you want to see easiest and back up in the cloud most. And in most cases, there's no fiddly router setup required. As long as you can get a VPN out, which most routers are set up to do that by default. The tether box can connect to the cloud, and away you go. So we've talked about tether boxes. This is what they look like. So tether box 2 there on the top left hand corner. We'll do 2 to 5 cameras. So out of the box, it does 2, and we can firmware upgrade it remotely to 5 cameras. Then you've got the Pico, starts at 5 cameras with terabyte of storage built in, and we can expand that remotely, firmware upgrade over the air to 10 cameras. And then we've got the Giga, which will do 10 to 20 cameras, and the Tetherbox Pro up to 150 cameras. We'll organize the hardware to suit the number of cameras that you need in the Pro. The Giga and the Pro are rack-mounted 19-inch jobbies, so they are a little bit bigger. However, this is kind of about 120 mil square, and this is about 100 by 80 mil, so it's much smaller. So there's plenty of space, plenty of places where you can pop them as part of your existing install. Okay. So remote setup and support is the next thing we want to talk about. It leads to quicker installs and COVID-safe installs as well. We've got less engineer time on site, which is kind of really important. The less time your engineers on site, the less time they could potentially be coming into contact with the dreaded COVID-19. Indeed, you may not even need to go to site. You could just post your tetherbox to your customer, get them to plug it in, and then you can connect and commission it remotely. So it solves many system issues from wherever you are. If you happen to be in the van, whether it happen to be in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and the customer rings you, wherever you happen to be, you don't need to be tied to an office, tied to an amazing internet connection to make it happen. Virtually everything can be done remotely, which is amazing. So like I say, less driving for the engineer, less waiting around for the customer. We can resolve the customer's issues that much quicker. Good for the environment as well. We can tunnel into cameras, into the camera's web pages securely without exposing those to the internet. Which means if you want to change the analytic on a Hikvision camera, you can do that via the tether box. We don't need to do any port forwarding. We don't need to expose the corporate network to the internet. We don't need to set up any DMZs or anything. Quite simply, because it's an outbound VPN connection. Once we're connected to the platform, we connect to the platform, which then connects to the tether box directly. As Roman showed you, you've got the map view, so you can see all your installations on the map, and any tether box with an issue is highlighted. This means it's much easier to route engineers to jobs. If you've got your tracker on one screen for your engineers, and you've got your tether map on the other screen, anything that's got an orange or red dot, you perhaps would be able to route an engineer to quite quickly. You can quickly see that, John's up there up near Newcastle, and he's got a couple of jobs that need to be looked at on his way home. So rather than asking somebody to drive all the way up there, only to cross paths with the engineer on his way home, happy days. You can see where people are. And of course, the health view there, as you can see on screen, the health view is great. So you can see if there's any potential issues there as well. Like I say, proactive response, you can see all your installations at a glance. Any tether boxes with alerts are highlighted with a different color. So how does this all connect together? There are three scenarios here for you. Our camera's connected into a PoE switch. Into that PoE switch is also connected our tether box, which VPNs out to the cloud platform, which gives us all of the features that we need. We can also have those connected through an NVR. So most NVRs on the market will restream, because you can connect to them remotely, but you can restream those cameras from the NVR, which gives us more capabilities very often. Again, through our tether box and into the cloud. And if you've got a DVR, so the DVR might be running turbo cameras, for example, up the coax, legacy site even, we can connect to the DVR. Basically, with the DVRs converting it to the camera to an IP stream, and then we can connect via the VPN up into the cloud, up to the tether platform. Now, you may also notice other devices in here. So it could be that you've got your intruder alarm connected to the same system, so we can integrate with that. It may be that you've got something like a wireless access point. So if you needed to tunnel in to maintain the wireless access point, we can do that as well. And also things like point of sale, many other devices that are IP, we can actually connect to them to give you remote access to perform maintenance or configuration tasks. So the process really, tether box goes to site, you connect it to the cameras or to an existing recorder, and then you can connect to your cameras on any site, on any device from anywhere. The footage is stored locally from the Pico and above, and you can back up those cameras to the cloud. Equally, we can connect to single or multiple locations simultaneously from a single logon. There's also multi-tenancy options and single sign-on for those kinds of support that you might need. So to summarize that then, we can connect any IP camera via network switch, any IP camera via an NVR that supports restreaming, and any legacy analog or HD up the coax via DVR, again, provided it supports restreaming. Most are, to be honest. So how many old legacy sites do you know of that would benefit from an upgrade? Ditch those old apps, move on to the Tether platform, and it's my go-to. In fact, I probably shouldn't say this too much, but I will. So at home, for those of you that know what I do, I support a number of different manufacturers. So at home, I've got about 16 cameras up of different manufacturers. I've got now 3 tether boxes. I've got a Hikvision NVR, I've got a Dower NVR, I've got a Vigilon appliance and a Vigilon server, I've got a NAS drive. All of these have got apps. Which one do I go to as my weapon of choice? It's the Tether every single time. It loads quickly. The usability of it is phenomenal, and it just shows me the things that I'm most interested in straight away. In fact, to the point where I will generally go and look at that rather than bothering to look out the window. So with the cloud subscriptions, then you can add storage in the cloud. It's very easy from the tether box itself. You just log into your timeline from wherever you happen to be, select the tether box, and then you can configure cloud storage for each camera. Remember, of course, you'll incur a monthly cost for this service. The only other thing the only other fee there is the annual platform fee. It's a small charge that covers the cost of using the cloud to view your events and manage your tether boxes securely online. So here's a summary of the cloud subscriptions for you. So basic just gives you the local live viewing, locally viewing footage, unlimited users, of course, but up to 2 users simultaneously, and then remotely viewing live over the internet in their low quality substream only. Once you go for the standard plan, you get all of these extra things, all the things we've been talking about today. So all the things I've just talked about, no restriction on the number of users at once. We can actually view HD events and HD footage. You've also got mail and push alerts, the multi-site view, the map view that we've talked about, and of course the automatic security and feature updates that happen automatically over the cloud, over the air as we want. You also get alarm panel integration. So if you want to interrogate your Texcom intruder alarm panel, remotely set and unset it, for example, we can do that as well. You've also got the capability of exporting your reports in Excel format for audit and things like that. So it's an absolute dream to prove that your engineer's done his maintenance properly when you've got your NSI or SSIB inspection. There's a quote tool available for you to use if you want to scan the QR code there to get to it. You can do that. So because the prices vary depending on which plan you're on, I've just blurred them out there, but some examples on screen for you there. Also with ANPR, there's a little quote tool for that as well. So you get up to 2 days free. If you want 10 days, which is the most popular, it's just £2.50 trade price. You know, as simple as that. So just a couple of points there. The ANPR data includes a snapshot of the license plate only. To record the video footage from an ANPR camera, you need local storage at TetherBox or a suitable cloud backup plan for the ANPR as well. So the ANPR is in addition to a normal cloud subscription. You don't have to have the cloud subscription for normal data, normal video data, but it definitely helps. Okay. Now, I want to talk about the installer extras today. So custom branding, reoccurring revenue, and the mapping as well. So if you want a vanity URL, you know, Mr. Security Installer.timeline.as, you know, mycompany.timeline.as, it can all be done. We can put in things like your customized social media icons and contact us links in there. So it gives you a really nice feel. The customer knows who you are every time they look at their CCTV via the app. They're reminded that you're their go-to choice. It's also the recurring revenue in the first year. You've got the sales of the product and the installation, and then from year 2 onwards, you've got the incremental sales from that, but also the incremental recurring revenue as well. And I think it's recurring revenue that has really facilitated the survival of security companies and other companies as well. But you know, any tech company in lockdown, it's those that have had recurring revenue, platform services in the cloud that haven't meant you've got to go to the office or go to site. Those are the ones that have had the maximum gains from this. So the recurring revenue is really important. It also means that you've got an opportunity to speak to your customer every year. You send them a bill, opportunity to engage with them. Do you need some more cameras? You know, would you like some more storage? Is there anything else we can help you with, Mr. Customer? So it's again, it's more opportunities to speak to your customers. Now we need to move on to the first site. Setting up your first site, it is refreshingly easy. So what we'll do is we'll just whiz through this for you. Quite simply, 3 simple steps. You get this little flyer in the box with it. Plug your tether box into your existing router. Go to this web address here, tetherx.io/new, and register the box with the serial number that you see on the sticker on the side of the unit. Receive your email. Click the link and away you go. During lockdown, you can ship the tether box straight to site. Anybody on site can plug it into power and data, provided you've got internet access. You can even use 4G as well. The number of sites out there just on 4G. Provided it's on the same network as the cameras or onto the MVR, the engineer can then log into the platform from anywhere and commission the system. Okay, right, I'm going to show you this now in real terms. Okay, so this is one of my tether boxes here. What we can do if we want to go and register a new one, we're going to add a new tether box. There you go. So there's the link. If you do tetherx.io/new, brings you to the same place. Then we take the serial number off the side, and I think you can just see that there. There's a sticker on the tether box. Copying that number there, hoping that it's in here. It is. Okay. Tick the T's and C's and the privacy as required, and click on next. So next question, do you want to add it to an existing timeline or to a new timeline? For me, I'm going to add this to this one here today. So you could create a new timeline. If it's a new customer, you could create a new timeline for them. If it's an existing customer, it's already got a timeline, you can add it to that. So on your timeline, you can have multiple sites. You know, up to something crazy like 10,000 locations. So that's as simple as that. So our Tether box is now activated. I'll get an email shortly. It's a good idea to fill in all of the extra information that we've got here. So I'll stick this one is expanding an existing Tether system on a residential, and then you've got a location. So I'm just going to tally up with the existing location that we've got already. You can even put some notes in here. So it could be, this is the one in building B, this is the one, you know, for the external cameras, for the internal cameras, whatever it happens to be. Click on activate, and away we go. So now I'll get an email that will come through to me with the one email that I've registered already for this timeline. In fact, it's just arrived. Let's just grab that, just so I can show you. So straight away, you get a little email come straight through for you with some little handy hints and some contact details, just in case you're having some problems. Okay. Need to add, I'm just going through, look at my list of things to do. Okay, now we've added our Tether box. We now need to go and have a look and add some cameras. Okay, so as you can see, anything that's online, we've searched through my network here. Anything that's online is currently in green. Actually, I can't remember which one I added it to. Bear with me a second. Let's have a look at the Tether boxes. So I added it to the Academy demo box. Okay, we're actually getting a firmware upgrade at the moment. I'm sure Roman will fill us in what's been updated on there. But yeah, I've got a firmware update on there, so I'll just give that a second to do that. So this one here is the other Tether box on that timeline. So I'll just click onto that one, and we'll add some cameras from there. It's already been updated. So let's have a look at the cameras we've got. So here we go. So as you can see, all these cameras, if you hover over it, you can actually get a snapshot, live snapshot of that camera as it is. Try and find, can't see the one that I'm looking for. It's always the way that it goes, isn't it? Let's have a look. I think let me show you this one. I think let's have a look at this. So once we found it, we can then add our credentials in there. If you hover over this little reveal here, it'll reveal the password for you, which is always a nice little tip. I'm not going to do that. Once you put your password in, click on the check password, it comes back and checks it at that point, so you know that you can actually log into the camera and do the things that you want to do. Subscription wise on this one, I don't have this one recorded into the cloud. Let's add this in here. Just going to change that up to 7 days. So time lapse with video up to 25% motion, 4 megapixels. Just going to hit that to update the plan. I'm installing in the EU because I want it to be a little bit cheaper. Just going to update the plan on there. There we go. There's some other features that we've got within here as well, which are quite nice. Mask. So if you get problems with that, or there's activity in an area that you're not interested in, what I've done here is I've just masked off this for activity. Reduces the number of false activations that we've got. I'm really not interested in the people that are coming in and out of their houses over here. Only interested in the people that are interacting with my property. That's the important bit there. So you can change that. We can just add a bit more in there each time if we want to do that. Remember to update the camera when you've made changes. Okay. What's next? Users, the next thing to do. So what we can do up here, if we go into users up the top here, probably should have said this. So if there are any issues, or however your tether box is connecting, this little dot will change color. So blue, this tether box is local, so I'm locally streaming on here, happen to be on the same network segment as that. Amber means that the browser's experiencing a slower connection, so it may take a little bit longer to update. And green means it's connecting with the cloud in real time, which is good. There's a little help thing. We'll come back to this one later on. Remember, anything you need, context-sensitive help, it's all in platform now. And then the little cog here is the most interesting one that we go to. So you've got your users, your tether boxes, your cameras, the health, the stats, and the admin there as well. So if we go into users, so we can see here, we can add a new user. Really simple to add. So you can have a choice. Now, depending on where you are in the food chain, depends on how many options you've got. Obviously, if you're an administrator, you can add a user. If you're an integrator, you can add an admin and a user. If you're a distributor, you can do all of these, and there's a manufacturer tier above as well. So I'm going to set up a new user. I'm going to call this Alice and Bob, and the email address. So pop an email address in there. If you don't put a correct email address, you can't activate the account. You can also put in here things like contact details for, mobile number, landline telephone number, the company. You can even set an expiry date as well. So if you've got people that are going to be on site for, a month, for example, tenants or something like that, you can set an expiry date. So when they're done, their login automatically expires. You also got a default page. So you could say, most people, in fact, will go for the events page first, so it shows you what's happened most recently first. You could do live view if you wanted to do that. That's another common one. But if you're in the office, it might be that you want your setup, so when you log in, to be map first, or in a company, it might be you want ANPR first. So I'm going to stick with events. Now, also you've got your notifications. Now, which notifications do you want? From there, you can choose all or none, or a combination of them. So do you want this user to be notified if there are any health issues with the tether box, or health issues with the camera? Do they want to get notifications for the analytics? And do you want them to be seeing reminders? So if this is just an end user, maybe you don't want them to be seeing all of these things. But if it was more, a manager for the site, for example, it could be that they want the analytics notifications and health checks as well. We can also change permissions as well. So what you can do is you can allow all of the cameras for events and all of them for live. Or if you wanted, you could say, do you know what? You can look at events on this one, and this one, and this one, but you can't look at the garden in this case. Or it could be, you could say, well, actually, you can look at the live in the garden and side camera and that, but you're not allowed to look at the others. So you can choose whatever permissions that you want them to do. In addition, down the bottom, you may wish to allow or disallow changing subscriptions. Allowing and disallowing support access. So that's another important one. If you want to, your end user to be able to turn on support access to allow you to do things, you need to tick that box. There's also a number of other bits and pieces in there as well. Things like controlling PTZ cameras, access to other network devices, and audio challenge and things, all that kind of things. And again, the other one, really key here, allowing to downloading footage and sharing events. Now, if you don't tick that box, the user can't do it. Okay. There's a full-on audit log. There won't be anything in there because we haven't created the user. Let's try and create this user. Okay, so here we go. So an email has been sent. So I can't see what the password is, but email has been sent to this person, Alice. If they don't get it for some reason, we can click on resend. Once they've received that email address, they click on the link, set up a password, nice and securely, and then they've got access. Simple as that. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to show you on here is the multiple timelines. So let's go to events. So as you can see down the side here, yeah, we've got different timelines that we might want to connect to. So at the moment, I'm on Academy Demo, which is those 2 tether boxes. As you can see, we've now got a bug on the, as it's great for live demos. Now got a bug in the middle of the screen, which is perfect. But it could be that, I could maybe log on to this one. Yeah, that's an ANPR camera capturing somebody driving running past. So I don't think there's any cameras on this one. This is so this one here. It's a different tether box, and also the demo here. So what we can do is we can select the timeline that we're most interested in, and you can have them all down there. So your timelines relate to a site or collection of sites for one particular company, whereas the tether box is just 1 per site or 2 per site or however many it happens to be. Okay, right. So that's that for the moment. Here, so in summary, then, with your new connection jobs list, really, you've got to create a new and add a tether box to the timeline. We then going to add our cameras into settings, the little cog, the top right-hand corner, and into cameras. Find the camera in the list. Click on the little modify, the little tick, edit pencil, and update the username and password. Then we can add our system users. Oh, excuse me. So add the user details, including their email, all important email address, and update the permissions for those timelines and those cameras. The new user is sent an invitation by email to complete the setup process. Then they need to download the mobile app. The user signs in with the new credentials. That's it, done. So in a browser, if you go on over to my.timeline.es, your favorite browser, whatever that happens to be, you sign in with those new credentials, then save the URL as a favorite as well, as you can see on mine. There we go. Yeah, I've saved mine across the top here. Ready for that. It's the quickest and easiest way to do this. Didn't realize I've got quite so many windows open. Okay. What do the engineers get? Okay, so daily or weekly integrator reports. You can get health report across all of the installations. Helpful suggestions, things like multiple power cuts detected. Consider adding a UPS. Of course, we should be adding a UPS to most of these sites anyway. Remember, when you're adding a UPS, you need to be thinking that you've got to back up the cameras, the NVR if you've got one on site, the tether box, and also the router if you want to get remote access still, and any switches that are there as well in between. Allows you to troubleshoot things offline. There's a last snapshot of what was happening on the site before the unit disconnected. Was there high packet loss? What were the temperatures? What were the IP addresses? And did any other devices experience issues? So we can get a really good view, a snapshot of what happened just before the device went offline. If there were high temperatures and things like that, it could be that the air conditioning's failed and everything's gone offline in the comms room. Also, we can plan intelligently. We see all those problem sites on the map. We know what to expect when we get to site. We can pre-populate the job sheets before you get there as well. And this is a real big efficiency. If you've got people in the office working on these things, when you send your job sheet out to your engineer, you can send them snapshots from the platform. You can tell them exactly what they need to know. It saves a lot of time on site. When I ran my company, we did something similar before we knew about Tether, which would have been a lot easier. Probably would have still been doing that. But we used to send out the engineers' dockets already pre-populated on their PDAs before they got to site, so they already knew what they were doing. They were needing to write less. They knew, if they needed to go to camera 6, we told them where camera 6 was, gave them a snapshot of what it looked like before. And then a description of the problem. So straight away, they already know what the problem is. And this is the key thing, I think, as an engineer. I'm always, whilst I'm not very forgetful, I'm always going in my mind, did I do this? Did I do that? Did I do something else? So if you miss something on site, you can often fix it remotely. As long as the unit's got internet connection, happy days. So what do customers get? Daily or weekly reports, configurable, of course. A health report across all of the installations. Again, those helpful suggestions, such as the multiple power cuts detected, consider adding a UPS, are presented as well. That is great. It's kind of a silent seller, but it's also prompting the customer that there's something that maybe they could do to fix these issues. Okay, we've written our code to detect and identify cameras on the network. Some cameras are simpler to add than others. There are guides to help you. So in your timeline, click on that question mark. I did mention it before, I said we'll be back. So click on that. More guides are being added all the time. So if you have a suggestion for one that's not there, please let us know, particularly if you've had problems connected to a particular camera or particular firmware version of a camera. Do let us know. We're happy to document that and add it in as well. Mentioned the mask. This is another typical example of where we have issues. This is the heating outflow here. So we get lots of false alarm, or did get lots of false alarms from this. This is a bush that blows around in the wind. So what I've done is I've put a mask across those. This is looking over the garden wall at traffic coming past. So I've masked that because I'm not interested in an alert on the garden camera for something that is covered by a different one. So this reduces the amount of false alarms that I get. So a fairly typical one that we can use to sort out there. Obviously, if you opt in for things like the deep alert, this is less of an issue for us because the deep alert is going to classify things that little bit better for us. Most cameras do have built-in analytics. For example, the line cross intrusion detection, alarm classification for human or vehicle, object left, object removed, elevated temperature screening is another one. Roman and I worked on that together just a year ago now. It's been very popular. We can fine-tune this according to camera manufacturer's guidelines. So what I'm saying is use the analytics that the manufacturer creates and incorporate those into the tether box as well. You can use the in-camera analytics to notify end users directly as well. You would need to set that up within the camera for best effectiveness. Okay, Roman, over to you for the next demo, and I'm going to try and sort my throat.
Thank you, James. Brilliant demo. Let's just share my screen. There we go.
There you go.
All right, so just to summarize all of that, so we do have these three words I mentioned at the beginning: the solid, secure, straightforward. So that's our guiding principles for when we're adding new features. But we also have the three M's, which is monitor, manage, and maintain. And when we're speaking to integrators, that's not just maintain, but it's also monetize. So the idea of the Tether platform is very much you can see everything that's going on. You know when engineers are going to site, when they're leaving site, so the system is intelligent enough to actually pick up when the person arrives to site, because they will connect to the local Wi-Fi, they'll open the Tether app will see them on the network, and then it will log that they've now arrived to site. So you do have full visibility. What is going on in your business? How many units are being sold? How customers are being charged? What those customers are doing? What the engineers are doing? And it gives you insight that you haven't had before. So if something stops working or is working abnormally, you know about it immediately. So that's the monitor aspect. The manage aspect is doing as much as possible remotely. Especially in the age of COVID, what's popular, as James mentioned, is to send the box straight to site. The box connects to the local network, finds its way out. So there's no port forwarding, there's no setup required, and it will work in the vast majority of networks. So once you have that, then you can dial in and then have a look at whatever's wrong with whichever device on the network is experiencing an issue. So if you have a managed switch, you can restart that managed switch. So effectively, any IP device you have, you can go into it and administer it. So I'll show a little demo of what that looks like. And because you have these tools, and because you have these reports, and because you have map view, and you have a snapshot of what the network was like when the system went offline, and all of these tools combined are reducing engineer visits by 40% or more. So this is slightly anecdotal because we are speaking to our partners, and this is what they're reporting. We're trying to formalize this a little bit to give you the exact stats, but we have some evidence to indicate that it's actually higher than this figure. And then for maintain and monetize, that's the upsell. That's cloud services, that's health, that's additional services such as deep alert. So there's quite a lot of flexibility to, once you've put the system in, to advertise those features to your customers and upsell those features. So a new way that you can do this, that we've introduced quite recently, is you can actually message your customers through the platform. So the same way that if you go into the platform and you have this little help button here, and then you have conversations that, so I can show you previous conversations. So every ticket that a customer logs is available here to them, so that they can see a history of all support. You see this history. And the idea is you'll be able to message your customers through this platform. So if you wanted to let them know of a new feature or of a new maintenance contract, they can be made aware of it as they're using the product. And one of those upsells is cloud backup. So for instance, if a system went offline and the user logs in and then they see that they don't have cloud backup, that's a perfect opportunity to pop up an automated message that says, did you know that if you had this backed up in the cloud, then you'd be able to see this footage? So speaking of cloud backup, this is what the quote tool looks like. James went over this quickly. And ignore the prices here. So your prices will be different. This is just for demonstration purposes. But this is a sales tool to use with the customer. So when you're sitting down, you're asking them very simple questions, such as, how many days do you need? What is it that you're backing up? What is the resolution of the cameras? And actually, do you need to back them up in that high resolution or not? Any additions that you like? Do you need to have alert filtering to reduce those false alarms? Is it an ANPR camera? Do you need to add additional storage? And we're planning to add 10 services by the end of 2021 that you'll be able to add through here. So for us, we're not trying to compete with all of these great products out there. We would rather incorporate them, find the best in breed product for a specific solution, and make it available through Tether with a tick box. So where normally you'd have to buy expensive cameras or servers, set them up, maintain them, with Tether, you'll just go in, tick, I want this specific analytics. I want hold up detection, for instance, to see if people have their arms raised in a hold up situation. So that will be an algorithm that you can just tick. It gets added to the monthly invoice and off it goes. So when you're sitting down with the customer won't see those prices. You can actually go in, press the little pencil, and customize what your markup is. So how much you would like to make from this deal. And you can customize this on a per customer basis. So when you're sitting down with the customer, you click on subscription services, cloud backup, and then the customer will see whichever price that you've specified with your appropriate markups. So that's very, very powerful. And it just removes that resistance point of the customer asks for something unreasonable, you send them a quote, the quote gets rejected, and you've lost the opportunity. Whereas with this, it's a quick screen share, showing them what are the options, what is going to be a bit more sensible. Maybe they can record locally at high resolution and then have that backup in the cloud at low resolution. Maybe they just need time-lapse images. So you can very quickly find a solution that's right for their budget, and more important, well, as importantly, can be handled by their internet connection. So another limitation could be that internet on site is very slow. So you have a calculator here that tells you exactly what connection you'd need for each package that you select. Another thing, so I've mentioned tunneling. So being able to manage the site remotely is pretty key. So if I go into the camera section, all I've done here is press admin cameras. If I open a camera at random, sorry, James, I'm using one of your cameras to demo. On our demo, we've disabled tunneling just to avoid misuse, because we give access to that demo to quite a few people. So if we press tunnel, open tunnel, we type in a reason. Sorry, James, doing a demo. And what this now does is it does the equivalent of driving to site, plugging in a laptop, changing that laptop's network to be on the same network as this camera, and then typing in the IP address of that camera. So if we click on this link that's generated, it takes us straight to the login page of the camera as if we've driven to site. And once again, it doesn't have to be a camera. It could be any IP device that you need to manage remotely. So that tunnel will automatically close after 60 minutes, and then you can manually delete it as well if you no longer need the tunnel. So that's a very powerful feature. One other thing to mention is this whole mantra of monitor, manage, maintain, or monetize. So to make that possible, our units, even the small unit that will do just 2 or 5 channels, it can actually record 10 times as many. It can actually monitor 10 times as many devices as it records. So if you go into the list of cameras or the list of network devices, so you also have an interface for network devices. So if you go into one of those interfaces, what you can do is you can specify whether that device is being recorded or just monitored. So the major difference is when you're monitoring a device, it won't be recorded to the cloud or to the unit, but will still monitor the health of that device. It will still give you access to live view for that device. So you could potentially have a small unit on site that's recording 10 cameras, but then you can still access 100 cameras in terms of live view or be notified if there's any problems with the rest of the cameras. So that little device does give you full visibility of what's on that site, what's working, what's not, and it's still a powerful service offering. So even if not all the cameras are recording, you can have all of them being still monitored and accessible. So we have a little page here that describes the difference. You can always find this information from our knowledge base or by pressing the help icon on the bottom right. So it explains here that when you set the device in monitor mode, it will monitor the health of it and exactly which kinds of health checks it's going to do. So it's going to check that devices on the network. It's going to use the API to check everything that device supports. So if that device has a hard drive and the hard drive is quite old, it will pick that up and add that to your weekly integrator report or daily integrator report, depending on how it's set up. Another thing that I'd like to mention is you can connect ANPR cameras. We have an ANPR interface. So I'll scroll down to show you what that looks like. Effectively, again, you create a tunnel to go into that camera. You switch on road traffic on the camera. So you do need to use an ANPR camera, and that can either be a Hike, Daiwa, or any OnViv supported camera. And from there, you get an ANPR interface that can count vehicles per day. You can search license plates across multiple sites. You can share events, all the typical benefits of Tether. So that's a nice to have. And we also have alarm panel integration, or actually alarm panel and access control integration. So the idea of Tether is pretty much any physical security device that you have, it's taking that device, putting it on a dashboard, letting you manage and monitor it remotely. So here we have an example of a Texacom panel. That panel has a battery fault. It tells you all the details of the panel. You can run a panic alarm test. You can trigger outputs on the panel. You can bypass zones with a tap, so you don't have to use the virtual keypad. You can assign a camera to a zone. So if you have a video surveillance camera that's close to the front door, you can say that zone 0, for instance, is the front door. You can pick the corresponding camera, and then if an alarm should happen on zone 0, the system then knows to send an event from that camera. So that's a very powerful way to marry up the video surveillance together with your alarm panels. And of course, you've got the virtual keypad, so anything you can do on site, you can also do remotely through the virtual keypad. So that's alarm integrations and access control as well. So we recently added integration with Paxton. So if you're using Net 2 specifically, we still don't have Net 10, that's on the roadmap. But Net 2, you can do, you can get real-time information, you can unlock doors, make changes, you can set up advanced rules. So the idea is if you open an event at Tether, so if we go back to the, where did I have that? So if we go back to the events table, and you happen to open one of the events, if there was a Paxton system, you would also see another tab here for Paxton that will show you all of the information happening on the access control system at the time, as well as a separate interface similar to ANPR. So you can search by person, so you can search by door, so you can see all of the information. And all of this is always exportable as an Excel, as a CSV. So even if we go to the audit log, for example, if you wanted to take all of this information, we can see James accesses quite a lot. We can press export, export as Excel or export as CSV, and then you can run your own reporting off of that information. So that's always available to you. So another thing James mentioned is setting up alerts and notifications. So you do have the global notifications tab, which you get to from the users page. So from here, you can switch things on and off quite easily. You can specify whether you want your integrator report to come daily, weekly, or monthly. And if you want to customize this further, you can go into a camera, for instance. So that's from the cameras table. And then you can decide that you don't want to receive temperature screenings, or you don't want to receive vehicle detections. So whatever the camera supports, you can then turn the specific analytics on or off, and that will be responsible, and that will control what's actually being sent to you. And we can send those analytics either by push notification to a mobile device, we can send email notification, or we can send the information to alarm receiving centers. So we integrate with IMIX and Sentinel. So if you ever need to send information across, setup is pretty straightforward. You would go into a location, you would edit that location, and then you would enter the relevant IMIX or Sentinel details, and that will then start forwarding the information to IMIX or Sentinel. I think that covers everything. James, handing it back to you.
Thank you. Yep, thanks for that. I'm back on again. You still see me?
Yep, you're back on.
Fab. Cool. Thanks for the demo. Always good. So something that Roman alluded to was the network device monitoring. I think this is a real game changer in two different ways. The first one, I think I'm just going to reiterate what Roman said. Was, so if you're installing a tether box in addition to say a legacy or an older NVR, means that we can use the Tether platform to view other cameras live, but not the ones that we're going to record onto the Tether box itself or into the cloud. So if you've got a 16-channel NVR, but you only needed 10 of those, you might choose a Pico 10 for your cloud backups and local storage on the Tether box. But it means that the other 6 cameras that are connected to the system that are being recorded locally on the old NVR still can still be viewed remotely, which I think is pretty cool. The other thing, in this world, particularly these days, with not so many people being on site, how do you know when the access control's gone down? So with the network device monitoring, things like we can monitor access control units, we could monitor access points, things like that. If you've got a wireless access point that's gone offline, means that staff can't actually use the stuff they need to when they go into the office on their allocated time slot or whatever. We can monitor the switches. So, again, we can see that the critical processes are still working. And a real biggie for you, if you go like a lot of people these days are traveling into the office to print out a load of stuff. So they save all the stuff that they've got to print when they need to do it. Travel into the office, you need to know that the printer's working when you get there. So I think that's probably another really cool one that we would never have come across if it hadn't been for the pandemic. Also, that's in addition to things like NVRs, DVRs, NAS drives. We can also monitor tills and things like that. Any customers on-site equipment that's got an IP interface will generally be supported. So I've put etc in there. I hate to use the word etc, but literally the world is your oyster there. You're limited only by your imagination and the ability to find out its IP address remotely. So the unit itself, the tether box itself, will find anything that's on the network through the network scan. So it's pretty cool. Okay. Audio challenge is another one that we've mentioned twice today. So it is possible to connect a tether box to an amplified speaker or a PA system. You simply connect the 3.5mm jack from your speaker or PA into the tether box. If you send your pre-recorded audio file to Tether support, they will upload it onto the platform for you on the back end. Then it's just a case of you clicking the audio challenge button to broadcast that message. So, it could be, attention please, this system is under remote CCTV surveillance. Please leave now, or the police will be called, something like that. All the usual things, but also with consent in mind. There's also an application whereby if somebody was going onto a car lot to have a look at a new car, that you could play them a welcome message, welcome to the forecourt. Please be aware you're under CCTV surveillance. By remaining on here, you consent to being recorded or something like that. All sorts of compliance things. There are a number of different scenarios that you might want to look at with that. Again, you're limited only by your imagination. And it's a custom audio file. So you could do a text to speech, or you could get somebody to do it in their, local accent or different languages or whatever you wanted. You just send that pre-recorded audio file to Tether and they'll upload it for you. Roman did say about connecting to intruder alarms. So I think it's really cool the fact that you can link your camera to a zone when it goes off. So to change the wording up a little bit, I think. So we talk about zones and circuits on intruder alarms and cameras in zones as well. So the two are ever so slightly different. So if you think of your circuit, your front door, for example, might be circuit 1 or zone 1 on your intruder alarm. It might be a camera or a number of cameras that you can allocate to that. So it's pretty cool. I do like the idea of the fact that you can toggle a zone on and off. So if you've got serviced offices and things, means that you can just unset the alarm for the people that are in today and not the rest of them, and do it all remotely. You can do it maybe from the reception or from the security office on site, or remotely as well. There's a number of customers out there that have got intruder alarms and serviced offices all over the country, but they don't have staff on site at the moment, obviously because of lockdown, but they're able to still carry on doing all of their normal tasks, letting people into the building and things like that. So basically anything you can do with the on-screen keypad, anything you do on site, apart from programming key fobs in, you can do remotely, which is pretty cool. Okay, so there is a little checklist for this, for the kind of the ins and outs. Of course, it's not going to work for me today, is it? Let me find it in the platform. Live demos always bite every single time. Okay, so go into the help and.
Oh, James, one thing, you can do it that way, and that I think you found it already.
Do you want to do it? You're going to say this one, aren't you?
Yeah, so I was going to say, so that makes it just a little bit quicker, because you can literally just type the word Texacom and it takes you straight into the relevant article.
Sorry, it saves me doing a demo for this as well. I did the two at once.
So if you scroll down a little bit, I think it's there.
There we go. Okay, connecting to a Texacom alarm panel takes you a link to the same place.
That's right.
Okay, so on the document, there are actually two USB comms. They look slightly different. My one has got a little white box in the middle of it as well, but that still works. So mine's probably older than this one. You need to buy one of these leads and plug it on to your onto your Texacom panel. Now, if you're using a smart com, you can't connect via the smart com at this moment in time, but in the box with the smart com, because your smart com will take two of the COM ports, the two that are closest together, which means that you don't have space for the USB com. So in the box with your smart com is a little COM port expander. So don't throw it away. What you need to do is you need to unplug your old modem, which is usually top right-hand corner of a 48 or 24. It's on the right-hand side, top right-hand corner, general area. What you need to do is unplug the modem and plug the COM port expander in there, and then you can plug on the USB com, and obviously you need to set that up on the Texacom panel as well. Now, I should say, for good engineering practice, that you should be wearing an anti-stat strap, and you should down power your panel to do this. However, not everybody does that. Okay. So once you've connected to your alarm panel, you connect into your tether box. It's a better picture actually. So if you've got a smart com, it would be connected on here. If you don't have a smart com installed, you can plug it onto either COM1 or COM2, whichever one you've enabled for that. And then, like I say, follow the little tabs on how to do it. It's simple, it's easy, it's effective. And what was the other thing we were going to look? You've done the tunneling, and Roman, have you got a user that we can just show you how to toggle on the support access?
Support access. I don't think we have that in the live demo. We should probably add a slide for that. We'll do that for the next iteration.
Yeah, I haven't got an end user set up. I don't think to do that. There we go. Right. Okay. Yep, I'll add that in next time. Apologies for that, guys.
Perfect. But just to explain how that works, so the end user will actually be, well, I wouldn't say pested, but it's visible to them on every single page if support access is switched on. So just like you can see the dark mode toggle on the top left, there's another toggle underneath that that says your support access is switched on, with an explanation of what that means and ability to switch that off. So once the system, while the system is being commissioned, obviously you should have access, you should be supporting the customer, setting up cameras, etc. But once that's done, you probably want to do a handover where the customer switches off support access. Now, what that means is you will no longer be able to make changes to their system, but you still have all of the health information, you still have the reporting, you still have the dashboards, you still have the exact same visibility that you had before, but you won't be able to actually see their cameras, or you won't be able to make changes. So it protects both the integrator, both the installer and the customer. So it protects the installer because you still have an account, you can still see what's going on. So if a customer claims that nothing's working and they don't want to pay your invoice, you actually can still go in and lock the customer out. But at the same time, if the customer doesn't want you seeing their cameras, you don't want to either, because then you can be in violation with GDPR. It can become a big legal problem for you. So you can prove that the full control is in the customer's hands. They can switch off access to the cameras. And if they switch them on, they've done so with explicit understanding of what that means, because the platform covers that for you.
Thanks, Roman. There's also something that we haven't covered, but I think is really useful. You'll quite often see if there's been a problem. In fact, you probably won't see it very often because there isn't very often a problem. I'm forever poking around and disconnecting things and adding things. So you'll see here, alert, your Academy demo tether box went offline 2 months ago. Here's why. And it's going to give you some handy hints as to what might have happened. I know exactly what that one was on there. It was when I went into the comms cupboard and I plugged in a brand new Hoover, and guess what? It was shorted out and blew the fuse. So that's exactly what happened on that one. So it was very explainable. But that's a useful thing to know, that actually it has power cycled for some reason, or that there's a problem, because you can do something about it. Now, customer demonstrations with COVID, it's really made people start to think out the box. This is something we've been able to do for quite a long time. So COVID safe demos, there's a lot of help at hand for end user demos. The guys at Tether can do them for you. Here at Mayflex, we can do them as well. With a little bit more planning, we can add in things like cameras from a Vigilon Axis, high cord, or robotics. But I think the other thing, really, the most popular demos, I think, are technicians. The guys in the field, you guys out in the field, have the app on your phone, connect it up to the tether box in your office, or something like that. Maybe on the boss's house. I don't know. Probably not the boss's house, but show some recent events. And it's a case of, you can scroll through. Like you wake up in the morning, you scroll through your Facebook alerts, or you scroll through your LinkedIn. But you're doing exactly the same thing, but you're scrolling through the recent events. If you want to do one yourself, there'll soon be a handy guide of what to cover in there. Support options is something else we need to think about a little bit more here. So we've talked about the in-platform help. I just showed you how to find it with the text icon there. That's the quickest way of doing it, just in case something's moved from where it was before. You can't remember. If you go into the in-platform help, start searching, where you go. There's also the knowledge base on the website. Those pages that Roman showed you as part of the demo earlier, they're all on, the knowledge base on the website. There's also the in-platform messaging. So in the same place where bottom right-hand corner, where I popped on and searched for the TextCom thing, you can actually send a message to the Tether support. Typically, office hours there, you get a reply within sort of 10 to 20 minutes. It's fairly typical there. You can also call Mayflex Technical Support, where you can either ring the normal number, or we've got an 0800 number as well, and Tether Technical Support as well. If you are a partner already, or soon to be one, you will get a dedicated single point of contact that you can actually speak to somebody, the same person every single time, and who will take ownership of solving anything for you. which is pretty cool. I think that's a really nice feature to have, something that most companies don't offer. Some tips and frequently asked questions, really. There is FAQ within the platform, and that is being added to on an almost daily basis at the moment. So do search that as we go on. Now, if you're adding on-VIF cameras, because of the Secure by Default initiative of the year before last, so the UK's Surveillance Camera Commissioner, Tony Porter, invoked a big movement to secure cameras by default. So if you have a camera that is on-VIF compatible or on-VIF conformant, you may need to actually go in and set up a user account for on-VIF. You need to go in and turn it on and set up a user profile in there. So that's for things like Dower and Hike. If you don't want recording 24/7, turn it off in the schedule. It's always on by default, which is a good place for it to be. But if you only want to record out of hours, for example, if you've got a camera in an office and the office staff don't want it to be recorded during the day, turn it off in the schedule for those hours. If you do need your longer local image retention, add a USB hard drive to the Telebox. When Amazon were doing one of their crazy deals, I managed to get a 5 terabyte hard drive for less than 100 quid. You just plug that into the Tetherbox. Tetherbox will recognize it and start to use it. That's particularly great if you've got one of the little baby Tetherbox 2s. If you want more storage on there, it's definitely a good idea to put a USB hard drive on there. So, on my Pico, for example, I've now got 6 terabytes of storage, and that is it's given me about 8 or 9 weeks. I've got an awful lot of events that happen here. I'm testing some software at the moment for false alarm filtering, so all of my cameras are set up really badly, or should say really well, to generate lots and lots of alarms. So I'm still getting quite a long retention period on my Tetherbox. Something we worked on a year ago and has been very well used since. If you've got a thermal elevated screening camera, this can be added. It gives you a really good snapshot of the trigger person. So when you look at the display on the live monitor, you'll see that the box around the person's head go red as the temperature increases. At that point, that's the point when we take the best possible snapshot. So if you're getting a push notification from that, for example, and you're looking back through the platform, looking back through the events, you will see who it is that's got that elevated temperature. Remember, of course, for legal reasons, this is not a COVID detection system. They don't exist. If they did, we sure as hell would not be in lockdown right now. An elevated temperature is just one symptom of COVID, as well as any other kind of fever. And some people can be asymptomatic, so it's not 100%. Anyway, right, legal bit done. Multiple timelines, no problem. Just add the user to both, and when they next log in, they'll see both. So the worst case you might have to say is, Mr. Customer, I've added you to your other new site. It's on a different timeline. It could be that you've got a different timeline, one for all of the sites in Birmingham, and a different timeline for all of the sites in London, and your boss wants to be able to see both, or your customer wants to be able to see both, then you literally add them to both timelines, and they'll see them in the top left-hand corner, as you saw on mine. But maybe that they would need to log out and log back in again to be able to see that, but simple as that. Very simple. If you've got any questions, do pop them in the Q&A box or in the chat box. We'll be happy to answer those for you. I have got one other thing. It's just a little bit of a teaser for you. I'm not allowed to share any more information today with you. So there is a Mad March promo on at the minute. So speak to Tether or speak to the sales guys at Mayflex or reach out to me and I'll help you with that. There's a Mad March promo on. Okay. So I'll just give you a sec just to talk about questions. Is there anything you want to say, Roman?
No, I think you've covered everything beautifully. Thank you, James.
Fab. Okay. What we'll do is we'll send you a link to the footage afterwards from the video from today. I've got a little poll for you. We'll also send you a link. So if you want to take a little quiz just to get a certification from this, you can do that. But we'll send that to you via email rather than getting you to download it off the screen. Okay, so thank you ever so much for taking time out of your day to spend it with us this morning. I really appreciate you doing that. if you've got any colleagues that want to watch this, it will be available on demand as well for the next couple of weeks. So we're hoping to do that. So this is session 5 of 17 in our training week this week. So I'd like to invite you to have a look at anything else that you'd be interested in. So if you hop on over to mayflex.com/courses, or go onto the Mayflex website down to the bottom, and there's the training tab. You'll be able to see what we've got on this week. So thank you ever so much to Roman and the guys at Tether for supporting this. Really do appreciate that, and thank you for taking time out of your day. Help us. Thanks again, Roman, and thanks, guys.
Thank you, James.
Fabulous. Okay, all done, and I'll just end the recording now.